Hello everybody, just one more minute here, I will be right on. Hello everyone. Hello, just one moment here. There we go. Okay, making sure everything is good here. All right, okay. Hello everyone, thank you for either watching the live stream or watching the VOD after the fact. Really do appreciate it. My name is Mark, Mystical Mark. I am a up-and-coming astrologer. I know a lot, but of course I am always learning as I go as well. Astrology is one of those things where you can never know everything. I think that's for most things in life really though. But yeah, it's one of those things where you're always learning and always continuing to progress. Anyways, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. So this week, I'm going to go over basically the astrology for the 11th to the 17th of June 2023. So we're going to have Pluto retrograding back into Capricorn this week. Saturn is going retrograde along with the Gemini new moon on Saturday the 17th. So we've kind of got a lot going on. I'm going to go over some minor transits and stuff as well that are happening. Just as a forewarning, I am no expert at the minor transits at all. I am just doing this kind of as a bit of an experiment to see. I don't see a lot of people doing them in mundane astrology at all. But I find, or I have noticed somewhat in my own personal life that they kind of do affect me in some ways, the mundane minor transits. So I will include them. Take with that what you will, obviously. Only listen to what resonates with you and forget the rest. And of course, always remember, I am not the only one doing astrology. Feel free to listen to other astrologers as well. And wherever the information may cross paths, or whatever information overlaps, then you know that to be something that maybe you need to really focus on, okay? All right, so we can probably get into it here. Of course, when I do this, I am literally doing this on the fly. So I basically prepare, I go over the transits earlier in the week. I kind of make a list, see the major thing that's happening, I don't really tune in. It's kind of like, oh, okay, that's happening. I do not take a look at anything else, and I do not dive any deeper into it than when I go on this stream. So what you're watching on this stream is me basically kind of looking at things more intimately, more deeply for the first time. Like, I know the transits are happening, I have an idea of what probably is happening, but I haven't fully looked at the chart or anything yet. So you're kind of seeing it live as it goes and as it happens. Okay, I'm just going to grab a drink of water here. Of course, this is live, so this kind of stuff is going to happen. So if you're watching this video after the fact and you're like, why is this dude just randomly taking a drink and this isn't edited? This is why. All right. Okay, let me just get everything set up here. And let's try to switch over. Hopefully it switches. They switch. I think I selected the wrong view. There we go. Just a sec, guys. Sorry. There we go. All right. Okay, so we're into the chart. So we're going to start. I have this set to today. So we're going to... I thought it wasn't going to work for a second. So we're going to start with Sunday, June 11th. I will try to make this as quick and snappy as possible, but of course, I always say that, and it ends up being like an hour or over an hour. So hopefully this goes much better this week, although there's kind of a lot to go through, but hopefully I can get through it quick. Okay. And if you got other things to do, you can just put me on the background or whatever, put me on your second monitor. I don't really care if you just want to listen, and it's all good. Or don't listen to me at all. If astrology is not your thing, then why the hell are you here? But anyway, let's move on. All right, so Sunday. So one of the big things happening on Sunday, well, there's two big things actually. So Pluto will retrograde back into Capricorn. That happens. Why is this said? Oh yeah, it is back in Capricorn. For some reason, that looks like it was back into Aquarius. Clearly says 29 degrees Capricorn. I don't know why I was confused. All right, so yes, Pluto does retrograde back into Capricorn. And of course, during this, it's going to have its exact trine to Mercury, basically, before it ingresses in, and Mercury will ingress into a Gemini on this day as well. So there's kind of this energy shift along with them aspecting each other, right? So Pluto is, so we've had this initial little burst into Aquarius for the first little part of it, well, kind of a few months of this year. And then it will retrograde back into Capricorn, and then eventually it's going to move fully into Aquarius, I believe, by the end of next year, or as we head into 2025. We can actually take a full look here. So if we take a look here, direction changes. So yeah, so Pluto goes direct. 10th, when does it ingress? So it goes back into Aquarius, January 20th, 2024. Going to go back into Capricorn through a retrograde back in September of 2024, and then fully moves into Aquarius November 19th, 2024. All right, so we've got still a few months here of Pluto being in retrograde and a while before we actually fully transit into Aquarius. So with this back and forth, we're going to kind of see this play of these different energies. But what this is, because we're kind of moving into this more Aquarian space, this more progressive space, this more technologically advanced space. This is why we've seen more stuff like on AI, or, Apple's release on their, what is it called? The Vision Pro. Things like that. They would like that augmented reality kind of stuff. And people are really kind of mixed on that. But I think we're right at the cusp here of this Aquarius, Pluto and Aquarius stuff, where we're moving into this new space. And so it's, you could almost say, a prototype of things that are to come in a lot of ways, and more advanced technologies that we will see. Not just in VR and AR, but in a lot of other ways as well. Just like how we've seen AI really begin to take off. And this happened when Pluto was at the end of Capricorn as well, right? So we're right on this cusp. Right on this cusp of this old world dying and this new world kind of beginning, this transformational process. And of course, with Pluto retrograding back into Capricorn, it's kind of going back in there to, we've kind of moved ahead a bit, but we're kind of seeing, okay, what of this old Capricornian structure still needs to be knocked down, right? Or maybe needs to be transmuted or redone in some kind of way. Right, so as Pluto retrogrades back, we're going to kind of see kind of these, going to kind of realize, I'm going to see, what am I trying to say here? We're going back into this old space, but it's not something we're going to be there for a long time, right? So like I said, we're going over this old ground. We're making like these final like destructive calls, because Pluto is the destroyer, but it transforms. So, and it brings things to the surface. So in this case, it's into the surface of these Capricornian structures. That's corporations, governments, those types of things. We may see more enactment of that governmental control. But since we do have Saturn here in Pisces, Saturn the ruler of Capricorn, and with Pluto here, Saturn in Pisces, Pisces is this mutable sign, so it's this dissolver, this letting go of these things. And with Pluto and Capricorn, we're going to see more of this stuff coming out. Pluto's kind of like, it's the Scorpio energy, it's that revealer, bringing things to the surface. So we may see a lot more of that, especially since Saturn is going to be going retrograde as well, starting at the end of this week on the 17th. So Saturn's going to be going over old ground. So remember, Saturn ingressed Pisces back in March. And so now we're going to be retrograding back onto these spaces of, of kind of whence we came, really. Saturn in Pisces could be these restrictions in terms of like social media, this basically tying into what I'm saying here. It's like these corporate structures or governmental structures, but Pisces is also like behind the scenes type of energy. Pisces isn't what you see in this world. It's what you dream. It's what you imagine. It's also spirituality. It's what exists beyond this realm. So with Saturn here and the Pluto and Capricorn, I kind of feel like this is very much going to be a revealer of what's going on behind the scenes. And we're already kind of seeing this, especially with this Gemini energy being in square over to this Pisces energy. And we're going to see more of this as this new moon approaches on Saturday the 17th as well. Okay, so Pluto's retrograding back into Capricorn, kind of a big deal. We're moving back kind of into this energy, but again, we're going to be back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius right until the end of basically 2024. All right, and Mercury here moving into its home sign of Gemini. So we're going to start to see things in our own environment. So Mercury was retrograde in Taurus, right? So Mercury has been, it's out of its shadow now. It's picking up speed. It's really moving forward. In Gemini, it's going to really be a bit more speedy, especially in terms of, communication. That's what Mercury rules, communication. This is going to be communicating. We're going to feel maybe more curious. Gemini is that curious energy, very quick, very communicative, saying things just being blurted out, right? If you know Geminis, they like to talk and they'll just talk a bunch of stuff about whatever. A lot of times they may not even mean what they're saying, right? It's just thoughts in their mind are just coming out. And it's not all Geminis, because obviously there's more to a chart than just your sun or a Mercury placement, but this is very much, Mercury is the planet of communication, so on a more global kind of a scale, we're going to see that to more of an extent, right? And of course, as Mercury progresses through Gemini, we're going to have these aspects in square to Pisces as well with Saturn, and of course Neptune when it gets to the moving towards the end there. So this could be a lot more of this stuff like coming to the surface. One thing I didn't mention with Pluto here is that Pluto is still in square to the nodes, right? This is our destiny point where we're moving forward. I mean, the nodes, they are going to shift soon, but we're still in this North Node Taurus, South Node in Scorpio. So with Pluto here, it's pushing for this release, this transformation of the old to move forward into this more abundant new space, right? Of where we're going to feel good, where we're going to feel more abundant, where we're going to, have this nurturing physical growth into this better place. But in order to do so, we have to release and transmute the past. But in order to do that, that stuff has to actually come to the surface. And with South Node in Scorpio, especially with Pluto squaring it in Capricorn, like a lot of this stuff, especially like I said, these control structures and whatever, all that stuff that's going on like behind the scenes in that way, especially since I said Saturn is in Pisces, it's got to come up to the surface to be released so we can move forward into a better space. We can't just keep doing what we're doing or having the same type of rules and regulations and structures and moving into a newer and happier space. Like that, it's not going to work that way, right? We need to transform Pluto, a lot of these Capricornian like rule, structure, government, corporation stuff, and they need to release their skeletons in their closet. This stuff needs to come to the surface so we know who we can trust and we know how we're going to move forward into this better space. And to allow these corporations and entities to actually take the opportunity to transform if they actually want to be a part of this new and better world. Otherwise, they're just not gonna be. All right, so yeah, and of course, Mercury is in trine to Pluto as well. So like I said, we may see more communication on stuff coming out. And I know I didn't do a video last week or a stream last week because I was not in the proper space to do so. But I did write a short little blog post about it. A link to my website is in the description below if you want to see that at all. But yeah, so a lot of these, like I said, these squares over to Pisces is going to be like these stuff behind the scenes coming to the surface, right? And another aspect to this is, I want to say creativity, because this is about creativity and more so like going with the flow in terms of Pisces energy as well. So I think what I mean by creativity, or what I'm trying to kind of get from what I'm being given here, is it's like this creative expression or this flowing expression. We're going to see things coming out, but it's going to be almost like in a divine timing kind of a manner. Because remember, Pisces does rule this aspect of spirituality, right? And this is also integrating these higher aspects, these spiritual aspects. It's almost like integrating your 5D self and connecting it with your 3D self here, Mercury and Gemini. The mind is very much in this 3D space, in this material world space, whereas Pisces is kind of everywhere, right? It exists in like all of the spaces. So we're seeing, it's kind of this integration of this intuition, this higher knowledge, and it being communicated in this way. And through that is like an uncovering of things from our physical reality and control structures in that sense. Right? Because we do have Mercury is still actually in sextile to Neptune here, as well as it ingresses into Gemini. So again, getting in touch with your intuition and learning to balance your monkey mind with your actual intuitive sense, your higher self, learning to bring that into balance and realizing that we are all multidimensional beings, and to learn to connect more kind of in that multidimensional space and way to really understand, to see what's going on. This is almost like more of a waking up in a sense, as you're bringing in that higher energy down into this more mind communicative space, right? And integrating that, right? These squares are, they're forcing something, they're forcing a conflict to resolve, right? So it's this higher space versus this lower space, almost like this intuitive mind, creative mind versus this logical communicative mind, right? And kind of merging them together to really force them to kind of work more in harmony together, and revealing a lot of these things that are behind the scenes, but we need to really recognize in this reality as truth, and understanding and exploring maybe what that truth really is, right? With this Gemini mercurial type of energy, really beginning to explore that. And of course, this is going to come up more, especially on Saturday, when we do have that new moon in Gemini in square to this Neptune in Pisces. It's going to concentrate that energy even more so on that day, and we may see more stuff come out, wanting to communicate more of this kind of thing, and also the illusion, trying to see through the fog of what is being communicated, right? But I'll try to connect more on that later, but that's kind of the gist of it. All right. What else is happening on this day? Mercury trine Pluto, so we also have, it's yeah, so Venus is in square to Jupiter. So we've kind of got Jupiter here in Taurus, in square to this Venus energy. Of course, Venus is also in square to the nodes as well, and still in opposition to Pluto. So Venus is going to retrograde, going to go retrograde this summer, like in the sign of Leo. So we can actually pull that up here. So if we go changes, so on July 22nd, Venus is going to be retrograde until September 3rd. Right? And she's going to be in Leo for a long time. So she's not going to shift into Virgo until October 8th. So we're going to have a lot of this more like heart-centered type energy revolving around relationships, career, money, material things, all in that kind of space. But there's stuff that's going to be coming to the surface regarding this stuff here, especially with this Pluto and Capricorn squaring the nodes. It's creating this grand square. And remember, Jupiter is expanding these points, right? So Venus has obviously been building into this square all week. And of course, with Jupiter still on the North Node here, it's pushing us into this newer space and direction, but really helping us to release what we can't and what needs to be brought to the surface, right? With this Jupiter opposition to the South Node, those oppositions are bringing balance. So Jupiter is expanding on that forcing of that balance to happen. You want to move into this more abundant space. And especially with this square to Venus in Leo, it's like you want to be the queen. Venus wants to be the queen here. And with square to Taurus, she wants to nurture like the best of the best. She's the bougie bitch now. Like she wants the good stuff. What we're moving forward, and this is especially coming from an unconditional love heart space, right? You want the best material things, but you also want this to lead from the heart, to come from your space of the heart of unconditional love, right? You want to manifest this abundance truly from your own heart and what we want from our own heart and moving forward into this space. And this is activating in this grand square, in this moving forward into this new direction. And like I said, with this opposition energy here, to get back to that, Jupiter is expanding this stuff coming up to the surface that has to be let go of, that has to be released. And as we move towards, obviously, the nodes ingress, as they're going to switch, this is going to get more intense as we push to the edges of the signs here before they switch, right? Because Pluto's going to be in square to them for a while, like even as they switch signs, right? Especially since it's retrograding back into Capricorn here. So we're going to have this shift, this release still coming up and still happening, in this area. And it's going to revolve around material things, money, career. It could be so many things. Especially since Saturn, like I said, Saturn in Pisces relating to this it's the ruler of Capricorn, Pluto's in Capricorn, like stuff's going to be coming up. And it's going to keep coming up, I think, for quite a while because it literally needs to. But be wary, because there may be, illusions, especially with this squares to stuff in Gemini. Listen to your intuition. Pay attention to that as we move forward, because there may be a major aspect of confusion in all of this as well. All right, I think there's some other minor transits happening on this day. I don't really have them on my list. It's going to be an interesting day, to say the least, with all these energy shifts and things happening. So I don't want to touch too much on that other stuff. Let's kind of move ahead into the week. And just have a look. Just going to have a look here. Yeah, I don't think I need to really touch anything else for now. All right, let's move to Monday. Oh, excuse me. I don't know why I'm yawning. I've been really tired today, so. And yet here I am. All right, Monday looks like, so Mercury's going to be making some minor aspects to the nodes here. So Mercury's going to be quincunx to the South Node and semi-sextile to the North Node. So again, with this quincunx to the South Node, it's like maybe what needs to be brought up from the past that maybe needs to be integrated, or maybe there's some form of communication. Maybe it's regarding something that's being brought up, things being brought up to the surface. There's this maybe things you want to leave in the past, but things that are being communicated, or there's something here around communication and maybe kind of facing, the past, the skeletons in the closet from your past, of maybe what needs to be brought up or released in some way that needs to be integrated. Right, this quincunx is like this frustration. There may be frustrations around maybe certain things coming out, like all this energy shifted on Sunday, and now on Monday there's kind of like this, maybe you're not really sure what's going on and what you need to, but we need to work on that integration of integrating these things from the past into our minds, into our environments, because there's this semi-sextile here to the North Node. This kind of needs to happen in order to shift into this new direction. With the nodes at 3 degrees, it's also a Gemini degree. So there's an aspect of communication involved here, or thought in the mind somehow that needs to be integrated. This could be maybe a mental health issue from the past, things coming up to the surface that needs to be, it's kind of maybe like a whoa moment. It needs to be kind of integrated in some way in order to, you know, move forward. With the semi-sextile here, this could be either like good or bad. But it could be, I feel it's more good in the sense in that if we're moving forward into this new space and this new direction, that integrating these communications, these issues, these kinds of things into our mind is going to help us to begin to move forward into this new direction and new space. So kind of something to pay attention to. Like I said, I'm not so much an expert on these minor kind of aspects, and I'm just bringing these into more mundane astrology. I don't really see too many people kind of doing that, but I think that they do have an effect, and it's be interesting to see as the week plays out how these things do play out and have an effect. Right, so that's kind of it for Monday, for all I have. We can take a look at what the moon might be affecting here. So we're going to have the sun sextile the moon. So I almost feel like that's going to be like warring communication because it's the moon in Aries. The moon in Aries is very reactive and it's fit sextile to the sun in Gemini. There may be like opportunistic moments of like reaction to certain maybe communications or communicating reactions to certain things. So I kind of feel like there may be things happening. It's going to be in trine to Mars in Leo. So there's kind of this masculine fire kind of energy happening here. And of course the sun is sextile. Yeah, there's kind of a, yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm just kind of noticing that for the first time. I didn't really plan on going over this. Interesting. Yes, there could be like an opportunity to maybe communicate passionately from a heart space or something that you need to fight for that's maybe subconscious or emotionally within you in some way that needs to be expressed or reflected as well. So, you know, maybe keep that in mind too. But anyway, let's move on to Tuesday. Let's keep this fresh and going here. All right, so Tuesday. Tuesday, we're going to have the moon obviously moving into Taurus. And of course, as it progresses throughout the day, it's going to touch on, well, later in the day, it's going to touch on the North Node in Jupiter here. And so obviously it's going to hit this grand square between the nodes, the Pluto. I think Venus is starting to move off of it, but it's still kind of moved off the opposition to Pluto there, especially since it's kind of an out of sign opposition. But it's still kind of in effect, and it's still basically in a T-square to Pluto. So there may be emotional things that kind of come up with this aspect as well, what I talked about regarding the nodes. So kind of pay attention there. Venus on this day, though, one of the minor aspects I have listed is Venus will quincunx Saturn. So I feel like this is around Saturn in Pisces, the dissolving of kind of these structures. The lesson of Saturn in Pisces may be more focused on spiritual, intuitive types of things, lessons regarding that. But I feel like this is going to be more coming from the heart space, especially Venus rules our material things, career, relationships, and that kind of thing. And Saturn is like restriction. Maybe where do we have to integrate the dissolving of these restrictions into becoming more centered in our heart space. Venus also in Leo could be bringing things to the light, to center stage in terms of our career and that kind of things, in what things maybe we need to dissolve. What do we need to integrate here in order to dissolve these old structures and limit the restriction of this and maybe move into this more heart-centered space regarding this? So, and obviously Venus still in square to the nodes here at the same time and squaring the moon now, as well as squaring Jupiter. We want to move into this more emotionally positive space. But what do we need to get rid of? Right? So again, this could lead more into things coming out, not only on a world scale, but on our own personal scale as well. Just again, regarding what needs to be transmuted in order to move forward. All right. Okay, so that's kind of the highlight I have for Tuesday here. I just want to touch on that. Again, I don't want to spend too much time going over a lot of these things. I could literally stream for hours going over a bunch of this stuff, but I just want to kind of go over the highlights here for this week. So let's take a move on to Wednesday here. All right, yeah, I think I just had Mercury semi-sextile Jupiter. So again, there could be an opportunity here to expand on communication that could help to move forward into like maybe a more abundant kind of a space, especially since Jupiter is still on the nodes here. Mercury it's in this bi-quintile to the south node. I will talk about this more when it kind of peaks. I think it's in the next couple days here. So there is, and Mercury is building in square to Saturn as well. Maybe frustration, especially regarding communication, frustration and confusion possibly, since Saturn is in Pisces with this square. And Jupiter's kind of like expanding. I almost want to say expanding more, but talking about it, expressing these things in order to move forward into this space. Remember, Saturn is still in that Pisces space where we're kind of dissolving those kind of areas of our lives. Right? So we could have this expansion of this communication in a way, but this is really helping us. I want to say it's more like abundant communication. I feel like it's more positive and really moving forward. And Taurus is a very nurturing type of energy as well. So it could be more of a nurturing kind of space. I'm being drawn to that this is at 5 degrees. So that's 5th house, that's Leo type of energy. So maybe more from a heartfelt, more abundant kind of a space as this semi-sextile kind of happens. But with this bi-quintile to the south node, still in trine to Pluto. Well, this bi-quintile here, I don't want to get into that yet. I'm feeling I don't want to get into that yet. I don't know why, but we're just going to kind of move forward. I don't think it's the best time to get into that quite yet. Okay, what is the moon doing? So the moon has kind of moved beyond the Jupiter North Node stuff, and now it's going to be moving into conjunct Uranus here in Taurus as well. So this could be emotional shakeups, especially regarding money, like the Taurian things. Could be like randomly feeling like, I don't know why I want to say changing things up around the home, but the moon does rule Cancer. And of course, Taurus and Cancer, they're very nurturing feminine signs. Excuse me. So yeah, it could be changing things up. Could be like emotional inspiration kind of in some way. Maybe what's going to make you feel good. Maybe regarding like food type things, your material things, sensuality, what's going to make you, like I said, what's going to make you feel good. I know, that's kind of what I'm feeling in regarding to that. It's like Moon will make a square over to Mars in Leo. Emotional volatility may be kind of a thing, especially with Uranus here. There could be, this could almost be like Moon and Aries type of energy in a sense, where it could be quite reactive, especially with Uranus, like kind of coming out of nowhere. There could be like emotional reactions. This could be more so triggered maybe from more of a heart space. Black Moon Lilith is aspecting this as well. So it could be, you know, where we felt overthrown from society, where we felt outcast in some types of ways, and where we want to kind of feel good and where our uniqueness lies. And in that kind of feel good energy as well, and trying to balance that emotionally. All right, so let's move on to Thursday. Thursday, we're going to have the moon coming into Gemini. So again, we're starting to experience kind of this more Gemini energy here. Even though sun is kind of getting close to leaving Gemini, we're approaching the summer solstice here as well. So the energy can kind of feel like it's intensifying towards that point too, as that is kind of a major shift point. Especially since the new moon is going to be happening at the end of Gemini, so it's happening right on that edge before that solstice energy. But we'll get kind of more into that when we get to Saturday. One thing that's happening today, so the sun is in bi-quintile to this Pluto energy in Capricorn. So again, the bi-quintiles are kind of like this creative force of what's happening behind the scenes. So it's like when you're working on a project, building a project, doing creative work, a lot of what people see is the finished product. They don't see what's actually going on behind the scenes. So when these things show up in a chart or in like a birth chart, it's showing where you're working behind the scenes or where you have behind the scenes help. And this can deal with also like spiritual behind the scenes stuff or stuff that you're not necessarily seeing that's coming through. And this, because I remember that's like that creative energy, that Pisces energy coming through in that creative way to assist in some way in building up something, putting the work in behind the scenes, or this behind the scenes spiritual energy that's putting the work in and coming through. So this would have to do in terms of communication, and also with Pluto and Capricorn, this transformation, this structural transformation of these control structures in our world. So we may see things coming out that are existing behind the scenes, or maybe that have appeared almost seemingly out of nowhere, almost as if the universe is guiding it to be released in some way or to be revealed in some way behind the scenes here. Then this energy is peaking on Thursday the 15th. So we kind of have like this transformational energy, this revealing kind of energy, this Pluto and Capricorn, and then this communicative energy with this sun in Gemini. But it's the sun here is illuminating this communication, these thoughts, these communications, this outpouring, this curiosity, and of, maybe what has existed going on behind the scenes in this sense. So I kind of feel like we may see stuff coming out, or we may see things happen and wonder what actually is really going on. There may be talk about what actually is really going on here behind the scenes, right? Something may happen or something may be communicated where there was a plan for it all along, right? And this could be a divine plan, or this could also be the plan that has happened, again, behind the scenes, behind the curtain, behind the veil, so to speak. But there may be some aspect of revelation or revealing this or bringing it to the surface in some way regarding the control structures that may be involved in this. So just keep that in mind, because I kind of feel like everything that I kind of look at here, there's a lot of what I'm looking at, that things kind of coming up to the surface on a more global, like grander scale, and in our own lives as well. Like this isn't like this affects every level, but every level in a different way. As it funnels down to you, it affects you more in a personal way. As it expands out to the world and beyond, it affects it more in that expanded global way, right? So yeah, I think that's kind of one of the main things I wanted to talk about. On this day too, there is Mercury square Saturn. Sorry, I have my little cheat sheet list here of the transits that are happening. So we have Mercury in square to Saturn again. Okay, now I'm getting kind of more of what this really is. This could be more of like revealing, because remember, Pisces is like the dissolver of structure. Saturn is structure, Capricorn is structure, control structure. Pisces is the realization that that doesn't actually exist. So it's kind of dissolving these kinds of things. But with this square, again, with these Gemini squares, there's an aspect of confusion. But this is also behind the scenes stuff coming out too. So you, generally, with anything square to Saturn, it can be frustrating. There could be a lot of communication regarding work, regarding aspects of control, rules, those kinds of things. But with Pisces, it could be things behind the scenes kind of coming out. And remember, we've been building into this square. So we're building into this all week. It's just peaking here on Thursday. So we've already kind of felt this energy, and I've mentioned earlier in this video as well, that too, right? So yeah. And again, this be communication, like I said, regarding work, regarding these control structures, regarding that. This is putting in the work, maybe regarding in terms of communication as well. This could be creative communication, building something through creativity, being curious about creative communication, those kinds of things. That could be like a different level of this, but also I feel like it's more of possibly a revealing type of aspect. Because we also have the moon coming into Gemini on this day as well. It won't happen till later in the day. It looks like in the evening time where I am, mountain time, around 7:45. So yeah, so we're not really going to see the moon maybe starting to hit this Mercury square Saturn point, and the moon is going to square Saturn. There could be like emotional frustration regarding around certain things as well, with the moon being in Gemini. That is going to be communicated out there, so just be wary of that. But really try to tap into your, regarding anything with Pisces, and especially with this Saturn and stuff here, tap into your intuition. Saturn is trying to restrict that part. Remember, where Saturn restricts is where we need to expand. So make sure we kind of take a look at that. So we may need, there may also be a restriction of communication too. Or it could be more like, I almost want to say politically correct type of communication, or like corporate style of communication. Like it's like this official type of thing that kind of gets communicated, but it's could be happening more in a creative way, or to help to dissolve something in some kind of a way, or there's some kind of intuitive creative aspect to this. I don't know. When it comes to like Pisces, things get really confusing. And when you're dealing with Aquarius stuff too, it's like, I don't want to say confusing because that's your aspect of higher knowledge, but it's almost like things just happening, right? It's unpredictable type of energy. Okay. All right. So let's clear this. Let's move on now to Friday. All right, so on Friday here, we may... Yeah, okay. So Mercury is going to be bi-quintile here to the south node. I think I touched on this a bit earlier here, but again, this is, like I said, this is behind the scenes stuff, and with the south node and Scorpio, it's like things from the past coming to the surface to be revealed. And then with Mercury here, like this aspect of communication, but it's almost like behind the scenes stuff from the past, or where you've invested in the past, being brought maybe more into your local environment, your local space, into your thoughts, into your mind, to be communicated in some way. Or there's some type of creative project that could be being worked on as well with this quintile to Neptune too. And too with this square to Saturn. Saturn could also be forcing this putting this creative behind the scenes type energy into something, or communicating it into something, making sense of it in some way, or making sense of these past things in some way. But it's like putting the work in behind the scenes, or discovering or finding clarity on maybe what has been happening behind the scenes really in the past, or things kind of being revealed in the past in some sense. It's, again, I'm no expert at these minor transits, but it is something to kind of pay attention to and look at as we kind of move forward with this, especially since Venus and Mercury are sextiling here. I don't think they sextile until Sunday, or it's moving into the following week. Yeah, so they are moving into it, so I'm just trying to maybe tune into that. Going to be more focused maybe mentally on our heart space and where we want to go in terms of our relationships, communication in our relationships, but more coming from a heart space. It's like what doesn't exist from an unconditional love space almost needs to be gone. Especially since we've had Venus in Leo squaring like this nodal space. And like I said, Venus is going to go retrograde in Leo, right? So pay attention to kind of this Venus and Leo stuff and kind of what happens now, as these themes may kind of show up, especially in regards to relationships, communication. I don't know why I said communication. Maybe due to the sextile to Mercury, so communication within your relationships. But relationships, I wanted to say communication again. So maybe there's an aspect to this Mercury and sextile to this regarding relationships in some way that deals with something that maybe needs to be revealed from the past, that is coming up, that needs to be brought into the spotlight, or that isn't heart-centered. And there's an opportunity here with this sextile to move into this more heart-centered space, but you have to put into the work or realize truly what has been going on in the background, so to speak, to be brought to the surface either mentally through the mind or communicated in some way in order to be more in that space. And this could involve an aspect of intuition, or there could be, I almost want to say like creative timing, but like divine timing, like creative timing, like going with that flow of energy. But it's almost like could be more intuitive, behind the scenes type of things that are revealed to you regarding that. And it's kind of interesting. Like I said, I don't dive deep fully until I'm like on video on stream here. So if you see me like looking or kind of like, I need to tune in and try to figure out, take a look at this here, because I don't just analyze this and then try to, bullshit people. This is like a live stream. It's like real. I'm going over this now. So you can see like how it happens. And then we can also see how this plays out throughout the week. Because astrology is one of those things. It's like you can see the energy, or kind of see the energy before it happens, or kind of make predictions. But the universe operates in such creative ways that you can see the energy signatures or understand the energy that's going to exist at that time, but how it actually really plays out is really interesting to watch and see, right? It's not always as it seems, right? And the more that you kind of do the astrology and stuff and look into patterns of the past and how this works, the more you're actually kind of to see how that will actually play out, but you're never going to be able to truly really predict it, right? Because that spiritual stuff, that higher knowing and that spirituality, that's like I said, Aquarius and Pisces energy, where Pisces is like that fog. You really have to tap into your intuition to try to know and understand what is really going to happen. It's not just the logical mind that can really take a look at this and predict. Right? Or it's these aspects of higher knowledge and higher knowing that we need to know through that. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I touched on everything for Friday here. Okay, let's move on to the last day of the week. So let's move on to Saturday the 17th, where we're going to have this new moon. Let me just skip when it peaks. 26 degrees. Come on. Do we want to make it as exact as possible? Do we really? Do we want to waste the time to do this? So it looks like this is going to be happening. So I'm showing 10:38 p.m. I got a ways to go. All right, close enough. I'm not going to waste my time doing that. But, all right, so we have this new moon in Gemini squaring Neptune in Pisces. It's off by basically a degree. Let's just go with that. Because, yeah, the sun will be an exact square on Sunday. So, this is emphasizing kind of what I said earlier in stream, earlier in video here, about almost like intuitive communication, or communicating this, almost like this higher aspect of yourself. Getting in touch with that, but it's also I almost want to say it's waking up to the illusion in some ways. So with this Gemini type of communication energy, this is your mind, your logical mind, trying to make sense of maybe the media, what we've been told in the media, what we've been, because the media, it's like the movie, it's like a stage, it's like that dream that they want to show the world, right? Pisces is your dreams, Pisces is that illusion, the illusion that they want to show the world. But the only way that you can see beyond the illusion or see through the fog is to get in touch spiritually and use your intuition. The only way you can discern the truth is to use your intuition in whatever way that works for you, whether you get intuitive thoughts through your mind, through your emotions, through whatever way that works for you, through meditation, through getting in touch with that, get in touch with your intuition to see. So this is almost like seeing clarity through the fog, or trying to push through into clarity through the fog here in some way. But it's also can be revealing, like I said earlier, of what's going on more behind the scenes, behind the veil, behind this illusion. And spirit could be helping us in this sense, because Neptune rules Pisces. It's in its home sign, and it's in square to this sun, moon in Gemini, right? So this is new moon. This is moving forward in this new direction. And as soon as I said that, I got that with this higher aspect of yourself being connected, tuning in, coming in, right? So this is more of a balance between your lower mind and your higher self, this higher intuitive self, and having them work together. So you're communicating more intuitively, almost in a way, from your higher aspect, from that higher self. So you're able to make more logical sense, or almost see through this fog type space in some way, to realize that it's connecting, realizing that we're multidimensional beings, and that access is kind of being brought through. But I get that this is a square, but this is kind of forcing that into place. It's forcing it into balance and moving it into that space, and that kind of realization coming through, right? And the ability to see through the fog, to use that intuition, to use that higher aspect of you, see through this. This is spirit helping us through that time. This is integration of those aspects, right? As we move forward into this more abundant space, Jupiter North Node, with that T-square to Pluto here and everything, the pressure is on to expand and push us forward and transmute these old ways and move to this in this new direction. If we're talking ascension, your higher self is involved in this, and this is this connecting of this lower and higher intuitive aspect and bringing this forward as well into this new space, right? And so our communication may end up being more intuitive, more in line with our higher self, more in line with spirituality, more in line with trying to see through the illusion that we have been fed, that we have been given, right? And through that, there may be more communication regarding aspects of this, because this new moon is going to be regarding it. This new moon, I almost want to say, the new mind that is going to involve this higher aspect of you. These new communications that are going to involve this higher aspect of you. So yes, this communication, this mind aspect is highlighted in this new moon, but it's new. And we're moving forward into this higher kind of a space, especially since we're 4 degrees away here, less than 4 degrees away of Sun moving into Cancer, the summer solstice, right? We're shifting seasons. We're moving into a new quarter, right? We're moving into this new kind of space. And I say quarter because it's not broken up like how corporations break up the year, because they're dumb. It's broken up by how, like the equinoxes and the solstices here, and how this quadrant is broken up in the chart. So we've been through this season of spring. We move into summer, fall, winter, right? So we're moving into a new quarter here, right? We're moving into more new cardinal energy. We're moving into this new space. So Gemini is a mutable sign. It's changeable. This new moon in Gemini, we're changing the mind. We're shifting our aspects of communication. We're shifting this type of energy to involve more from this intuitive higher space as we push forward into this new world, into this new space, and also into this new season. And interesting, the Cancer is a water sign, and a very subconsciously intuitive water sign at that. So we're moving into this new space in this sense. Okay, I think that's all I want to say about that. Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, is... No, it's in sextile to Venus on this day. So I already kind of touched on that. Right? There could be communication. This is, again, heart space communication. Communication, the mind focusing on more of this heart space. Again, this unconditional love space, this higher self type of space, type of energy that is existing and coming through in this sense. So there may be aspects of a realization of that through this communication. And of course, with Mercury still in bi-quintile to the south node here, things coming to the surface maybe from possibly this higher perspective, or this higher divine perspective that has been working behind the scenes. The divine working behind the scenes is now gaining clarity in our own mind and in our own thoughts. Mercury here now at 11 degrees, that's an Aquarius degree, where we may just know. We may just know through also connecting with our heart space in that sense as well. And also where our uniqueness lies and our individuality lies in terms of our partnerships, relationships, career, the people that we surround ourselves with, the things, material things we surround ourselves with in our reality and in that sense. And this transmutation, that now that I'm seeing this, what happened behind the scenes, maybe in a higher level to be transmuted, and the work that was being put in to move forward into this kind of new space and realization of that. And also that coming now into our filtering through into our actual physical reality of what we need to, I almost want to say like ditch the bitch, ditch the relationships that aren't working. Sorry, I don't mean that in any kind of derogatory way at all whatsoever to anyone. But it's just like ditch that part of, ditch old relationships that aren't working maybe in our lives, that maybe this transformation has already happened in 5D or in a higher type of space that now gets transmuted into the lower realms, right? So we may have a realization regarding where we need to put the work in now behind the scenes regarding our relationships to bring this up to this more unconditional love type level. And that could involve being at 11 degrees as well, an Aquarius degree, connecting and disconnecting from certain people, from certain jobs, from certain circles of friends, from certain areas in our lives, because there's the sextile is an opportunity here to communicate, to be able to move, and also communicating from the heart. This doesn't necessarily have to be a detrimental separation, but an understanding that, this has evolved and come through from this higher space and is now coming down into this reality. Okay. That just kind of came through. I don't know what. That Uranian energy is now coming through me right now, apparently. All right. The last major thing to touch on for this day is Saturn goes retrograde. Let's see, what time does Saturn go retrograde? 10:52 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So Saturn goes retrograde, sextiling to Jupiter. still in a wide trine to the south. Wow. Okay, yep. Okay. The Saturn in trine to the south node. Again, south node in Scorpio is bringing up shit from the past. The stuff that we need to ditch in order to move into this new positive direction where Jupiter is still, I mean, it's moving off its conjunction here. It's moving off of its conjunction. Sorry, I was using my finger to point at this. People can't see my finger on the video. So south node, so it's moving into this, you know, abundant direction of where we're moving forward in. And with this trine here, trines tend to be kind of lazy, but we're also dealing with Scorpio energy and Saturn. Yeah, but this is I feel like this is a positive transformation of maybe realizing these negative aspects of control and where we've been led in the past. And that's to start off this retrograde. So the theme of this retrograde really, especially with Pluto now retrograded back into Capricorn, is really revealing a lot of hidden things. A lot of stuff that has gone on behind the scenes through the veil, where we've been shown a movie that was never actually real in regards to aspects of control. Corporate structure, governmental structures, where we've been controlled in our lives through any kind of that, through aspects of abuse in that way as well. Right? This is bringing this stuff up for this positive transformation of stuff from the past so we can move on. This sextile to Jupiter so we can expand and nurture this positive new abundant space. And again, this, if we were to just kind of leave the retrograde out of it here, this Jupiter sextile Saturn is just really expanding where you're going to put the work, the creative work in to move forward into a new area, into a new space. Trine to the south node in Scorpio, what needs to be released? But it's a positive release. It's a positive transition into a new area, a new space to move forward. And with the nodes, the south node here at 2 degrees, this is now a Taurus degree. So we're dealing with money. We're dealing with our abundance, with, you know, what needs to come up to really help us to move forward in this space, in this sense. And with Saturn at 7 degrees, that's Libra, that's justice, that's balance. Saturn is also, that's karmic balance. Saturn at 7 degrees, karmic balance, and in the sign of Pisces. Okay, I don't know if that's like just some kind of slip, but Pisces, there might be kind of some spicy stuff coming up here. Some spicy news, spicy things being revealed. Spicy things going on behind the scenes that are coming out. Yeah, but there is definitely a transformative way. And I think, like I said, I think that's going to be the theme of this Saturn retrograde. That there's aspects of things behind the scenes that are just going to be coming up. But it's for positive transformation to be released. And to move forward into this better space. And we're nurturing ourselves into a more creative, more feminine, I don't want to say more feminine, well, but to balance it out into a more feminine space and moving forward into this energy. So, yeah, I really think that's all I have to say now. Really. I mean, I don't know how long I've been streaming for, probably a while. It's been over an hour, I think. Okay, let's move back to just me and see what we can do to finish off the video here. So yeah, it looks to be an interesting week. Thank you to everyone who was watching. Thanks to anyone, you know, who's subscribing to me, who's watching me, who's supporting this in any way. If you want to continue your support, if you like this video, please hit the like button. Engage, write a comment. What did you think? Like, let's talk. Write something in the comments that helps with engagement as well. You can watch me live. I usually do this every Saturday. If I'm not able to do it on Saturday, I'll usually do a little blog post, or I'll post on the community tab on YouTube, or follow me on socials to get updates that way. I'm not too active on there at the moment, but I'm working on it. Right, there's a lot going on, a lot of shifts and changes, so I'm working on it. Anyways, thank you everyone for your support. For those that have watched this, looks like it'll be an interesting week. Everybody, have a good week. Again, if you want to get to know me more, get in touch with me. All the links are in the description below. Anyways, thank you so much, guys. Have a great week. Take care always. Bye for now.